Somewhere around here are possibly two of the oldest cherry trees ever planted in the Tidal Basin.
It's a cold case more than 125 years in the making. Which of these cherry blossoms were the first pair ever planted in the heart of DC?
I'm gonna say that one, that one.
Why do you say that?
Pure guessing.
The tale behind DC's two eldest cherry trees takes twists and turns you wouldn't expect, kind of like some of these branches that will be blooming in a matter of weeks, if not days, downtown. So, of course, there's only one man I'd trust to get to the bottom of things.
So, what we see here on the Tidal Basin today, these are the, as the kids would say, the OG of the cherry trees.
Ranger Mike needs no introduction at this point. He told me that in order to understand why we don't know which two trees were the first ever planted, we have to take things all the way back to 1906.
Dr. David Fairchild, who is an American botanist of note, he brings over 200,000 new species of plants and variety of plants to America.
In addition to things like avocados, mangoes, and bamboo, Mike says Dr. Fairchild brought back 75 cherry trees from Japan to his home right here in the DMV in Chevy Chase to see if they would exist in the U.S.
They survive, they thrive.
So,
the next year he brings 300 more in and plants them elsewhere around Chevy Chase, not just on his property, but elsewhere around town. By 1908, he's giving away cherry tree saplings to school kids, telling them to plant them in their schoolyards.
In 1908, Mike says Fairchild gave a speech on Arbor Day where he talked about how the U.S. should plant cherry trees in DC's Tidal Basin. In the audience that day, American journalist Eliza Sidmore, who decided to hit up then First Lady Helen Herron Taft, who said, and we're paraphrasing,
"I'm on board.
Wow.
Let's make it happen." Contacts with the embassy, with the consul. Next thing you know, somebody's shopping the idea to the mayor of Tokyo, and he agrees to send 2,000 cherry trees.
That was 1910. So how could these trees, which the plaque here says were planted in 1912, be the oldest in the district?
Inquiring minds want to know, did you lie to me?
That's an awfully strong accusation. Perhaps alternative facts is the phrase you used.
Is this fake news?
You might remember a story Mike and I covered in 2024, where I took you guys to East Potomac Golf Links in Southwest DC, the alleged sites of the real oldest dated cherry trees in the heart of DC. But Mike says those technically aren't canon.
We talked about that last year. Those trees are diseased, they have to be killed, and the Japanese will agree in 1912 to send an additional shipment.
After burning about 99% of the first shipment, 3,020 more cherry blossoms arrived in March of 1912. But Mike says the U.S. didn't really make a big deal about it.
There's no big ceremony. Everybody kind of remembered the black eye from a couple years earlier and didn't sort of want to stick their neck out. The Washington Post devotes 3 paragraphs to it.
With no photographers and very little media coverage, the First Lady and the wife of the Japanese Prime Minister planted 2 trees somewhere in this spot.
And when people talk about the original cherry trees, we're talking about the original surviving trees, the 1912 shipment. The problem was that in 1912, they didn't map or survey the locations of where those original trees were planted.
It could be any one of these.
Could be any 1 or 2 of these, it could be none of these.
That one over there, and then that one over there.
This one's pretty big and has a lot of weird stuff going on too, so like it really could be one of these. But then, I don't know.
Mike says there are some clues that could lead us to speculate which 2 trees are the oldest here. But I'm going to have to tell you about those in a future mini episode of Mad About Town.
Is this a mystery that's going to remain unsolved?
I think this stays in the open case files for a long time to come.
We'll let everyone else decide. Here in the Tidal Basin with Ranger Mike, I'm Matt Kaufax, WTOP News. For more stories like this, download and listen to WTOP Radio on our app or tune in to 103.5 FM.
Yeah, I mean, somebody I deal with regularly, she called about, a story they're working on, and in the course of the conversation, she goes, "Oh, I love what you're doing on WTOP with Mad About Town."